Continuing on with the 2018-19 expectations videos for each NHL team, we have up next the Buffalo Sabres. So obviously we all know that the 2017-18 season for the Buffalo Sabres really was a year to forget, but it was kind of a good thing as they were able to get that #1 overall pick finally. They finally won the draft lottery after I'm sure Buffalo fans are still salty about not getting Connor McDavid. They were able to get a franchise defenseman. You could argue he's going to be a generational defenseman, and that's Rasmus Dahlin, and I think he's going to come in and make a huge impact for this team right away, and this really changes the look of this team for the next decade. They finished last year with a record of 25, 45, and 12 for 62 points, 8th in the Atlantic Division, the worst team in the NHL. Their leading goal scorer was Sam Reinhart and Jack Eichel. They both had 25 goals, and their leading point scorer was Jack Eichel with 64 points. If Eichel was to stay healthy, he probably would have been up there around 85 to 90 points. I'm a huge fan of Jack Eichel, and I definitely think if he has a season next year, kind of like what Nathan MacKinnon did, where he just broke out and really became that franchise guy, I think that would be huge for the Buffalo Sabres, but they definitely did have a busy offseason, and I think next year for Buffalo fans is a season to look forward to, and it was a pretty quick turnaround and a pretty quick retooling from last year to this year. I'm not sure if they're going to make a jump right back into the playoffs, but I definitely think they're going to be better next season than they were this previous year. So taking a look at some of the offseason transactions, who came in and who left the team. Like I said, it was a very busy offseason for the Buffalo Sabres. Obviously coming in, Rasmus Dahlin, the #1 overall draft pick. They just got Jeff Skinner in an absolute robbery of a trade. They also got Vladimir Sobotka, Patrick Berglund, Tage Thompson, Carter Hutton, and Connor Sherry. And the only really notable player in my opinion who has left is Ryan O'Reilly. And these offseason transactions could prove to be huge for the Buffalo Sabres as the depth of this team has dramatically increased from this season to the last previous year. You add Jeff Skinner, who when healthy and when playing all 82 games, I think he's really capable of being a consistent 30-goal scorer. This past season was a bit of a down year, but I think a new opportunity and the opportunity to play with talented guys like Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart and Casey Middlestad, I definitely think it is going to benefit Jeff Skinner, and we're going to see him bounce back for around 30 to 35 goals next season. And then obviously in that Ryan O'Reilly trade, you got Sobotka, Berglund, and Thompson. Sobotka and Berglund really bolster the depth of this team. I think that they're both going to play together on the third line, and I think it is going to be pretty fantastic to have guys like that on your third line, and obviously when injuries happen, because they're probably going to happen throughout the majority of the season, Sobotka and Berglund I think are still capable of playing second line minutes. And then you have Tage Thompson, who I think is a wild card for this team and definitely could push for a top 9 role. He's a talented guy, a guy who I think gets overlooked as an offseason transaction for Buffalo, I think he's a fantastic player, and I definitely think he, like Berglund, like Sobotka, are really just going to bolster the depth of this team. Obviously, Robin Lehner has left. I didn't put him on the out part because I definitely don't really think Buffalo is going to miss him all that much, and they signed Carter Hutton, who I think it's interesting because is he going to be able to replicate the season he had last year? Probably not, but is he an upgrade from Robin Lehner? Probably, but that kind of is the question mark of this team. Is still their defense score is a little bit weak, the offensive is young, and obviously in goal you don't have that bona fide elite goaltender, and hopefully Carter Hutton can just be pretty solid for them next season. And then obviously you have Connor Sherry, who is a guy who can play in your top 6. I'm pretty sure he's going to probably get most of his ice time with guys like Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart. And I definitely think Sherry's a guy who is capable of 50 points. And all in all, I think it was a pretty good offseason for the Buffalo Sabres. Obviously, the big name they're bringing in is Rasmus Dahlin. But I definitely think losing O'Reilly could prove pivotal for this team and really could put a damper on them as they're really leaning towards their youth to bring them back to where they want to be. Now taking a look at my lineup predictions for the team heading into next season. First line, I have Sherry, Eichel, and Reinhart, and I definitely think Jeff Skinner and Sherry are interchangeable, and you can put either one, but I kind of put Sherry up there just to kind of balance it out and put more firepower on the second line as well. So Sherry, Eichel, and Reinhart, is that a good first line in the NHL? It's going to be interesting because I don't know if Sam Reinhart is a bona fide first liner. Hopefully he can build on his really good second half of last season and take that next step and really solidify himself along with Jack Eichel as two first line guys who really can lead a team into the future. And then obviously Connor Sherry is a guy who in my opinion is kind of like a Zach Hyman, like a Michael Furland. a guy who brings some grit and has some goal scoring ability as well. And then the second line, Jeff Skinner, Casey Middlestat, and Kyle Okposo. Casey Middlestat is a huge part of this team, and I hope, and I really do hope, that for Buffalo's sake he has a fantastic year, because they really are going to need it. And then Jeff Skinner, hopefully he can have a bounce back year, and Kyle Okposo, hopefully he can have a bounce back year as well. So on this forward group, there's a lot of what ifs, but if those what ifs are to come to fruition, this team could be disgusting next year. And then the third line, Sabotka, Berglund, and Pominville. I don't think Pominville's a top 6 forward anymore, but he is a guy who can finish his checks, he can score some goals here and there. And along with Sabotka and Berglund, I think that's a pretty solid third line. And then on the fourth line, you have Girgensons, Thompsons, and Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez probably could push his way up in this lineup, along with Tage Thompson and probably Zemgus Girgensons as well. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, because this team doesn't really have those nitty-gritty guys in the bottom 6, and there's a lot of talent and depth on this team. So it is going to be interesting to see if they do make a trade to move out some of these good forwards that are kind of playing lesser roles than they should be, to get maybe a defenseman or a goaltender. But right now, what the lineup for the forward group looks like, it is a really deep team with a lot of youth and a lot of what ifs. But like I said, this could be deadly coming into next season if everything gels for Buffalo. And now you have the defense core, where things get a little bit iffy. I have Scandella and Ristolainen playing together on that top line, and I think probably about halfway through the season we will see Rasmus Dahlin playing on that top pairing with Ristolainen and logging a lot of ice time. But I think to start the season, they're going to start him off, not throwing him right into the fire, but keeping him back on that second pairing and playing him with a veteran like Bogosian. I think that will benefit him just to get his feet wet, and then eventually he'll make that jump to the top pairing. But yeah, top pairing, Scandella and Ristolainen. I like Ristolainen as a top 4 and a top 2 defenseman. Scandella I'd rather see on the second or third pairing, but with a team that is rebuilding, or could be coming out of a rebuild, you obviously don't have fantastic defensemen, so Scandella I have there, but halfway through the season I think it'll be Dahlin. Second pairing, Dahlin Bogosian. Like I said, I think pairing Dahlin with Bogosian is going to help him just to get a really feel for things in the NHL, a good veteran, a good two-way defenseman. I think it's going to open up for Dahlin a lot. And then I have Beaulieu and McCabe, and I definitely think McCabe is a guy who could be able to push himself up into the top 4 and move Bogosian down to the third pairing. I am a fan of Beaulieu. I'm a fan of McCabe as well, but a lot of youth on this blue line with Risto, Dahlin, Beaulieu, and McCabe. But if everyone is to play well, I think this is really just an average blue line. But if Dahlin is that franchise generational guy, it really could put them as a little bit of an above average blue line. And that really is the big question mark for this team, is the blue line and the goaltending. And obviously you have Hutton and Ullmark. And this could be a bit of an iffy pairing, because Hutton isn't used to playing full-time starter minutes. Obviously, he kind of split last year with Jake Allen, took some of the spotlight away from him, obviously posted a fantastic save percentage and all that stuff, but is he going to be able to replicate that? And if he isn't, you can't lean too much on Linus Ullmark in my opinion, because I don't think he's a starting level caliber goaltender in the NHL. Like I said, with the forward group, there's a lot of what ifs here, but it could be decent. Obviously, Dahlin and Ristolainen are the big names, but not other too many players to look forward to, really, besides McCabe. And you got to just really hope that Carter Hutton can replicate last season for the Buffalo Sabres, because if he does, this team definitely could be in contention for a wild card spot towards the end of next season. Now taking a look at my player stats predictions for the Buffalo Sabres, and take this with a grain of salt. I know this isn't exactly how it's going to be. Everyone's not going to play in all 82 games, but this is kind of just a points per 82 games, if you will. So I have Jack Eichel leading the way with 35 goals and 54 assists for 89 points in a season which I think would shut up all the criticism that he gets and really solidify himself as a franchise guy for the Buffalo Sabres, kind of like what Nathan MacKinnon did, like I said earlier in the video, and just really shut up all the haters with an MVP caliber season. Then I have Sam Reinhart, 29 goals, 36 assists for 65 points, really taking another step forward from the good season that he had last year. Then I have Jeff Skinner bouncing back for 31 goals and 61 points. Casey Middlestat, rookie season, I have him scoring 19 goals, 40 assists for 59 points, and I think he is capable of more than that, but it's going to be interesting to see how he does playing top 6 minutes for the Sabres. Then I have Dahlin, 10 goals, 34 assists for 44 points. I think a lot of these points are going to come from the power play, because I think he's going to be given the keys to that power play. He's going to be the quarterback, and he's going to get a lot of special teams points. And then I have Connor Sherry with 22 goals and 20 assists for 42 points, obviously playing on that top line, which is where I think he'll end up. He definitely will get his fair share of points, so obviously I know this isn't how it's exactly going to be. Don't take this too seriously. This is kind of just speculation on what I think they're capable of next season. Now finally, my final expectations for the Buffalo Sabres next season. I do have them taking a huge step forward, but not quite being a playoff contending team. I have them finishing with a record of 37, 36, and 9, so over 500. This would be a really good season in my opinion still, even though the expectations are pretty high in my opinion from what I've heard for Buffalo. I definitely think just being over 500 and being much better than they were last season, this would be a huge confidence boost, and then I think the year after 2019-20 will be the year the Buffalo Sabres finally get back into the playoffs. They have the capability to do it this year, but I don't think everything's going to mesh immediately, and it's still going to take one more season. Obviously, leading point scorer Eichel with 89 and Eichel with 35 goals. You guys seen that in the player stats predictions. But those are my final expectations for the Buffalo Sabres in the 2018-19 season. So that is going to wrap up this video. I really hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure you let me know your expectations and what you think the Buffalo Sabres are capable of heading into next season. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to drop a like on it and subscribe to the channel for daily NHL content. And I'll see you guys all in the next video.